name is Heido, and this is the Pantheon, where today we're delving into Dungeons and Dragons, and we're looking at a rather interesting gentleman with a lovely beard. It's Volo, Guide to Monsters, sort of. I feel that's my role here a bit. You know, I guide you and show you the monsters. Ha ha ha. Very, very good. And look at that beard. It's just so majestic. 4 mana for a 3/2 legendary creature, human wizard. Whenever you cast a creature spell that doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control, or a creature card in your graveyard, copy that spell. A copy of a creature spell becomes a token. Really, really cool flavour, you know. He's sort of telling you about them. He's like, well, okay, you'll split him in two. Very Simic. And Simic, it's all about interesting stuff, isn't it? You know, having different copies of things, doubling everything, because, you know, it's a bit like a doubling season this, but it's a really cool, interesting build around, which I do quite appreciate. If you like these videos, please subscribe. Going to make one of these for every single legendary creature ever printed. And, you know, come along for the journey. I'm sure we'll have some fun. Without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5 for Volo. In at number 5, it's a ramp package, because when I was thinking about this card, red and green, green and blue, it's all about ramp really, isn't it? And a lot of the time you end up playing a sort of elf package, you know, all the 1 mana elves. But that doesn't really work with our commander. We want to be playing individual sort of creature types that you don't see anywhere else. And Burnished Heart, how many elks do you play in your decks? 3 mana for a 2/2 for an elk. Pay 3, sacrifice it, search your library for 2 basic lands, put them into the battlefield taps, and shuffle your library. So if we get this into play after our commander, we get 2 of them. Really, really nice. Ramps you by 4 lands and tons of advantage. Having more mana than your opponents will win you games. It's as simple as that. To go along with this, a couple of interesting creature types ramp options. We've got Marleaf Pixie. It's a green and a blue for a fairy, to 2/2 with flying, and it taps for a green and a blue. So this is a stand-in for your sort of generic mana elf, but it's an interesting creature type that you wouldn't generally see. Dryad of Lycian Grove is a 3 mana nymph. He's something else as well. Dryad, I think he is. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So it's fixing, and while not technically ramp, being able to play 2 lands a turn, especially in a green-blue deck where you're going to be, you know, casting your cultivates to get lands into hand, things like that, this can work absolutely fantastic. Then we've got Kiora's Follower, a green and a blue for a merfolk. Tap it to untap another target permanent, so you can untap your lands, and it's a 2/2. So merfolk, another interesting tribe and a ramp option that maybe you wouldn't play generally. The problem with these green and blue cards is you do need green and blue before you can cast them, so your mana base needs to be on point. But I'd round out your mana sort of fixing with a lot of sorceries and instant, not really focus on your creature ramp, more instant or sorcery based. Brings me on to number 4, and at number 4 we've got a couple of really cool enter the battlefield effects, because if you're making a token you're going to be getting a second copy of that enter the battlefield. So Amphin Mutineer is a salamander pirate. Now if that's not a unique sort of coupling of types, I don't know really what else. So a 4 mana 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-salamander creature. That creature's controller creates a 3/4 blue salamander warrior creature token. So the cool thing about this is, well, we're not going to be playing any more salamanders, and I very much doubt our opponents will be playing salamanders. So we could use this on ourselves, you know, upgrade one of our 1/1s, maybe one of our ramp guys into a 4/3 token. But, you know, who knows? It's just excellent removal. Then it has Encore for 6 mana, so exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that targets an opponent this turn if able. Attacks an opponent this able. They gain haste, so if we bring this back, we're going to get 3 more token copies, exile 3 more things, and be attacking with loads of 3/3s. Really, really nice. Then we've got a Sphinx in Chancellor of the Spires. 7 mana for a 5/7 with flying. And if it's in your opening hand, you may reveal it, and everyone mills 7, apart from us. We're not playing mill, we don't really care about that. But what we care about is, when it enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. Really, really nice effect there, and we get it twice if we don't have another Sphinx, which, if you're building this deck, only include one of each. You know, it's as simple as that. But the really cool thing with Chancellor of the Spires is it doesn't exile the spell when it copies it. It just copies it, and then, you know, potentially you could get 2 copies of it. But if you target a creature copy spell, so, you know, something that makes a token copy of a creature, well, with that copy, you can use it on Chancellor of the Spires, make a token, that makes another token, and you can just have this colossal army of 5/7 flyers. Really, really nice. Delivering Primordial is very similar to this, but this does exile the card from the graveyard, so you can't do that sort of shenanigans with it. And it's an avatar. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card, if you cast this card this turn, put it through. If a card cast this way would be put into a graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Sorry there, I completely forgot how to use words. But a great card that you want to get a ton of value off, and having an extra copy of it works excellently. Then we've got Cavalier of Thorns, 5 mana for a 5/6 with Reach, an Elemental Knight. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a land from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest into your graveyard. So you get 2 copies of that effect. We get to, you know, ramp twice, go from 5 to 7 mana, and then when it dies, you may exile it. If you do, put another target card from your graveyard on top of your library. So you're going to end up drawing a really cool card next turn. And because we've got 2 copies of it, we get to put 2 cards on top. Then Terastodon, 8 mana for a 9/9. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents. For each permanent put into the graveyard this way, its controller puts a 3/3 green elephant creature token onto the battlefield. So a great card to just cheat into play in general. But if we're getting a copy of it, we're blowing up 6 permanents. Oh dear, our opponents have some elephants, but they don't have any lands. I know which one I'd rather they have. Acidic Slime works in a very similar way. 5 mana for a 2/2 with Death Touch. It's an ooze. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. Let's blow up some lands. Go on, let's do it. It's fun. Then we've got Skullwinder. That's a snake. Serpentine. 3 mana for a 1/3 with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, return target card from a graveyard to your hand. Then choose an opponent. That player returns a card from their graveyard to the hand. So, you know, we can make some friends. You know, we've blown everyone's lands up. Let's return a couple of the lands to hand, and we'll get back a couple of Terastodons. Wonderful. Brings me on to number 3. And at number 3, we've got Deep Glow Skate, which is a fish. Now, this card doesn't really work with a lot of what our deck's doing, but I'd build in a sub-theme of Planeswalkers, so this card really works with it. 5 mana, when it enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents. And it's a 3/3, so our little fishy friend comes in, and say we have Kiora, Behemoth Beckoner. 3 mana for a 7 loyalty Planeswalker. Well, we're going to go up to 14 loyalty straight away. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So that works not just on our general creatures, you know, our non-tokens, but it works on tokens. So if we're copying tokens, we're going to end up drawing 2 cards, and you can -1 to untap target permanent. So this is another bit of ramp that we can use. This is a card that works with sort of all of the directions of the deck. Then we've got Kasmina, Enigma Sage. 3 mana for a 2 loyalty Planeswalker. Each of the Planeswalker you control has the loyalty ability of Kasmina. You can +2 to scry 1, -X, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature, put X/1/1 counters on it. And then -8, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a colour with a Planeswalker. Exile that card and shuffle. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So this is really cool, and it's mainly the ultimate that I'm interested in. If we're going to have a lot of Planeswalkers, having that ultimate, you know, couple of Planeswalkers, it's a lot easier to get to 8 loyalty, and then you can -it, cast an absolutely colossal spell, and possibly win the game. So it's a nice little bit of scrying action. You can make a couple of blockers, and it just works really nicely. Then we've got Garrick, Primal Hunter. 5 mana for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. +1, create a 3/3 green beast. Very nice for protecting it. -3, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So if we're copying big dudes, let's draw a lot of cards from copying them. And then -6, create a 6/6 green worm creature token for each land you control. We're in a green-blue deck. We're going to be ramping a lot of lands, and this is absolutely game-ending. So with Garrick Primal Hunter, we can have a 3 loyalty planeswalker come in. Okay, first Deep Glow Skate comes in. Okay, we're on 6 loyalty. The second copy of the Deep Glow Skate comes in. We're on 12 loyalty. That means that we can -6 Garrick twice in a row. Really, really awesome. And actually, I just thought about it. With Kasmina Enigma Sage, 2 loyalty, she comes in. Then we're going to double it to 4, and then 4 to 8. Really, really nice. You can ultimate Kasmina straight away. So Kiora over there could end up with 28 loyalty. Jesus Christ, somebody stop her. Then a great card with Planeswalker, Gilderbairn, which is an oof, a rather interesting creature type. 3 mana for a 1/3. You can pay 3 and untap it. For each counter on target permanent, put another of those counters on that permanent. The black symbol is the untap symbol, so after you've attacked, you can untap it, or if you have a way to tap your creatures, well, there you go, you can use this. Double your loyalty. Then Evolution Sage, which is these last two, the Garrick's Harbinger and Evolution Sage, we're starting to veer into more generally used creature types, but they're cool with Planeswalkers. 3 mana for a 3/2 Elf Druid. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. So again, like I said before, we're going to have tons of lands entering the battlefield in green, and this proliferate allows us to put counters on each permanent and player, so we can keep building up our Planeswalkers so we can alternate them again and again. Then we got Garrick's Harbinger, 3 mana for a 4/3 with Hexproof and black. It's a beast. There's another beast coming up. I'd probably cut this in favour of the other one personally. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or Planeswalker, look at that many cards on the top of their library, on your library. You may reveal a creature or Garrick Planeswalker card from among them, put it into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So Hexproof and black, a lot of black removal. It gets played in Magic. And then we got a nice bit of card advantage, although you're playing blue, there's better card advantage around. Which brings me on to number 2, and at number 2, well, we're making copies of things, using our commander. Why don't we make copies in a lot of different ways? These are going to be tokens, so let's take advantage of it. Bramble Sovereign, 4 mana for a 4/4 Dryad. So that actually works poorly with Dryad of Elysian Grove, but hey ho. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 mana. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. So a lot of your deck is going to be about enter the battlefield effects, and this is another way, if our commander's not on the field, to get those effects. And if this is the only Dryad with our commander on the field, this can be 2 copies of this, so we can pay 4 mana to get 2 more copies of everything that comes in. It can spiral pretty damn quickly out of control, and the artwork's lovely. To go along with this, a couple of ways to copy things. Litjara Mirror Lake is a land, and I love a land that has an effect. It's a land, it enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a blue. Then you can pay 2 generic, 2 green, and a blue, tap it, sacrifice it, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. Activate the ability only anytime you cast a sorcery. So this is a nice way of just getting another copy of whatever enters the battlefield effect you want. Then we got Parallel Evolution, 5 mana for a sorcery. For each creature token in play, its controller puts a creature token into play that's a copy of that creature. It does help our opponents, so I'm a bit against it, but we're going to have a lot of tokens that we want a ton of advantage from. And you can flash this back for 7 mana, so you can do it twice. That's really, really awesome. And the artwork is utterly hideous. Look at that thing. I don't even know what's going on in its head. It looks like the horns are like a big starfish covering its face. Disgusting. Then Mirror Lake. The land enters the battlefield tap, and you tap it for a colorless. Pay 3 and tap it, sacrifice it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Pay 5, tap it, sacrifice, put a token on the battlefield that's a copy of target creature you control. So another great way of triggering enter the battlefield effects again. Then we've got a Seeker's Chariot, 4 mana for a 4/4 vehicle. Vroom vroom. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 green 2 My word. Create two 2/2 green cat creature tokens. Whenever it attacks, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. So this does only work with the tokens we already have on the field, but it's a great way of just generating another one. And it's crew 4, so, you know, our commander gets most of the way there. Then second harvest, 4 mana for an instant. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. Wow. We've gone really hard on getting loads of tokens. Instant speed, get all of those into the battlefield effects again. Incredible. Then Rite of Replication, 4 mana for a sorcerer with kicker for 5, so you can pay an additional 5 when you cast it. And you really want to, because you put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature. If it was kicked, put 5 of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. This can be absolutely game ending. All of those enter the battlefield effects. Tons and tons of value. Which reminds me of my friend Dave, who he's always trading for just garbage cards. You know, I don't understand. But the main thing is he wants foils. And I love me a foil. But I just don't get what his obsession, you know, you can play non-foils. Anyway, enough about Dave. Let's get on to Riptide Shapeshifter. 5 mana for a Shapeshifter. We haven't got any more Shapeshifters in the deck. It's a 3/3, and you can pay 4, sacrifice it, and cruise control for cool. Choose a creature type. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card of that type. Put that card into play and shuffle the rest into your library. This is incredible in this deck because we want all of our creatures to have individual creature types, Praetor, Golem, Eldrazi, and then this can help cheat any of them into play. It tutors your deck, it gets it to the field. Amazing. And because this is the only shapeshifter in the deck, when you cast it, you get a copy of it, so you can do it twice. Amazing. I love this card in this deck. I've always really liked this card. I love his big sort of, his hand, his sort of crab hand there. Amazing. So good in the deck. Now this is the beast I was talking about. Let's name beast. Let's get a creative behemoth onto the field. We've got loads of tokens. Our opponents are now dead. 8 mana for a 5/5 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. It's game ending. It's going to win. Let's name illusion. Palincron. 5 mana for a 4/5 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, untap up to 7 lands. So rebuy all the lands you've used to cast all of your creatures. Get an extra turn in essence. 4 mana, return it to its owner's hand so you can do it again. And the cool thing is, with this commander and Palincron, you cast it for 7 mana. Okay, cool. The only illusion on the field. Our copy enters the field, untaps 7 lands. We float all of our 7 mana. The regular one enters the battlefield. We untap them. We've got 14 mana floating. Pay 4, floating 10 mana. We do it all over again. It's an infinite combo with Palincron for infinite mana. Amazing. And we can just tutor it up using the Shapeshifter. And let's name Golem. Let's get a Blightsteel Colossus. 12 mana for an 11/11 with trample, infect, and indestructible. If it were put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal it and shuffle it into its owner's library. Can really surprise people because just throwing it out there. Okay, do you have an exile spell? No, you're going to be blocking for the rest of the game. Really, really cool. And then my personal favourite, name Praetor. Get a Ginger Taxis onto the field. Oh, your opponents are going to be so unhappy. It's wonderful. And those are my top 5 cards for this brand new Simic Legendary. Really, really cool. I love the flavour. I love the sort of deck building requirements. It's really nice. I really, really like this card. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.